Hello there, and thanks for joining me once again at my tying bench. In today's tutorial I'm going to go back to wet flies once again, and I'm going to tie another old traditional pattern. This particular fly is called the Yellow Sally, and you may have seen it tied in different versions, but this is just the way I put it together. And it's a good old classic wet fly, and I thought you might like to see this one this time around. So we'll get him a device, a fresh hook in here, and I'll get started. Now the hook that I generally use for wet flies is the Mustad 3399 standard wet fly hook, and I'm putting a size 10 in the vise here for this fly. So we'll get that locked down. And I'm using some Danville 6/0 yellow for the thread. So we'll go about it this is the way we usually do, about a hook eye length behind. We'll start our thread base, and we're going to wrap back here till we get almost to the barb of the hook, and we'll snip off our tag end. Okay, and we'll come back till we're just about above it there. That's fine. Now the tail on this fly is I'm using a yellow goose quill for the tail and wing. You could use duck. Duck may work a little better for you, but I don't have any yellow duck, so I'm just using goose, which is fine. Either or will work for this fly. And I'm using just a single slip of the goose quill and keeping it nice and thin for the tail. So we'll tie that in about hook gap length or a little more or so. And we'll come down around that with a pinch wrap. Tie him in there. Okay, make sure it's right on top of the hook. Looks fine. A couple wraps. Alrighty. So now we'll snip that to our body length. And the rib on the fly is gold tinsel. I use gold. Some may use silver, but I find the gold looks good on the yellow. So I'm going to bring that down around my thread here, and we want the gold side facing down. So I want to catch that in on the bottom. So I want to slide that in there, and then slide it to the length, same length as where I left the tail fibers there. Okay, then we'll come back, a couple wraps, place that in the material, clip out of the way. And the body's yellow floss, and I have some uni single strand yellow here. So I'm going to bring that in here and bring that around. I can get a hold of it here, and I'm going to catch that in on my side of the hook here, my side of the shank, and we're going to pull that to the same length as the other two materials, and we'll wrap back a couple wraps onto that, just like so. That's fine. Okay, now we're going to wrap all this forward, and I want to try to flatten out my thread a little bit, spin it counterclockwise, excuse me. And then we're going to wrap these materials up the shank, just to try to get a smooth base for our floss. Just helps to flatten your thread out a little bit when you go to wrap floss bodies. Try to keep those materials on the top of the shank as you wrap forward, just like so. Okay, we're at our tie off point here. Now we're going to take our floss and we're going to bring that around, and I want to get those fibers all going at the same tension here if I can. That way I won't get any fraying as I'm wrapping around. Try not to anyhow. Okay, we'll get that first wrap there right in front of our tail. And I want to check that. It looks pretty good there. Now as you wrap, you want to overlap each wrap just slightly over the next wrap, the previous wrap rather. Just makes it, smooths it out a little bit more. Just like turning the vise on the side sometimes, it's just find it easier to wrap that way. Okay, we're going to come up around one more time and tie that guy off. Okay, we'll get a couple wraps there, and a couple mirrors secured in nice and tight. Snip off our excess floss. Alrighty, so now we'll bring our rib around here. And of course we want the gold side showing, so we're going to come around here once I get it situated where I want it. Going the way I want it to go. Doesn't seem to want to cooperate, but we'll get it. Alrighty. There we go. Okay, so we usually get 4 or 5 wraps is plenty on these guys. Just like so. Okay, I don't like that first wrap, so I'm just going to back it off a little. Alrighty. So now we'll proceed forward. And usually get about 4 or 5 wraps on these guys. And we'll come around one more time and tie the tinsel off. A couple wraps there forward. Fold it back. A few more wraps to lock it in place. And then we'll snip off the excess. Alrighty, there we go, folks. Looks good so far. I got one little stray fiber down here I want to snip out if I can get a hold of them. It's just bugging me. I'm just being overly picky here. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so as you can see, it's quite a thin tail on this fly. You don't want it too thick of a goose quill segment on that. Okay, our next step is the throat. And for the throat, I'm using some yellow schlappen fibers, and I'm going to take a little from the same amount from each side of the feather, then put them together. Give me a pretty good thick throat that way. Or you could also, if you have some yellow soft hen hackle fibers, or hackle rather, you could tie one in and color it back that way as well. Whichever way you prefer. It's different ways you can go about it. Just find this method works good, and it's a little bit quicker and easier, you may find. Alright, so we got our fibers for the throat. We'll place those under, and I want them to come back just to the barb, or a little bit beyond is fine, and then we'll come up with a pinch wrap between our fingers and lock that in place. Just make sure that's in there nice and tight. Alrighty, there's our throat tied in. So now I'm going to come in underneath the hook eye there and just watch your thread and snip that off close. Alright, so now we're going to wrap those all down and go from the back of the eye, then back once again, and to get a smooth base for a wing is what I'm trying to achieve here. Alrighty. So our wing is what we have left. Now I have a right and left segment paired up here of the goose quill, 2 slips here, and they're about the same width as the hook cap, but I like to make mine a little bit less than that. So okay, we'll place these on top, and I want them to come back about approximately halfway on the wing is usually where I want them. So I'm going to bring the thread up around between my fingers like so, and I'm going to release the bobbin and just let the bobbin hang, and slowly, the way the bobbin, bring that thread down over top the slips, then pull down. Then we're going to pull up on those, come down around again. Then I'm just going to make 2 or 3 wraps forward to snug them in tight, and that should place them right on top for you like so. Those look great, nice and straight. So now we'll come in with our scissors and snip off the excess here on a slight angle. Alright, that looks fine, folks. Alright, next step is just to take a little bit of glue. I like to in those on the butt ends here where I've done the wing before I built the head, just for a little added durability. I always do that on my wet flies generally, and just let that soak in a bit. Okay, so all we got left to do is to form our head and a whip finish, and it's a done deal. Okay, so I want to start back at right behind the eye, then wrap forward towards the wing. Build this head up here. Just going to wipe off any excess glue there. Alright, that looks pretty good so far, folks. Alrighty, that looks fine. And there we have it. So all we got left to do now is to build, or rather, excuse me, our wet finish, and we're done. Okay, so bring my thread down, and as you know, I like to get a smooth hit on these guys, so I'm going to spin my bobbin once again counterclockwise and flatten that thread out best I can here before I do my whip finish. And we're going to start from the behind the wing and go towards the eye. 4 or 5 turns there. Okay, snug it down tight, just like so. And we'll come in and snip off our excess here, or cut it. There we have it. Another size 10 Yellow Sally wet fly. A good old classic pattern. And I've seen it tied in different ways. It's just the way I tie mine, and I thought you might want to give this method a go. And like always, the hardest part you might find on wets if you're just starting out with the wing is the wing. But if you just take your time and be patient with them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is put a little coat of head cement on around those thread wraps, and we'll call her done. Just going to work a little bit around here. Okay, don't want to get too much on, that's fine. And we'll let that soak in there gradually. So there we have it, folks. Another old classic wet fly pattern. I enjoy tying these, and I hope you enjoy watching them as well, being tied. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you'd like to see more of these type of flies in the future and many more, don't hesitate to hit that good old subscribe button there and the little bell so you're notified when I put new tutorials up. And also throw in a like too if you wish, and any comments that you might like to share, just put them down below. I always read them all. So until next time, like always everyone, I want to wish you happy tying out there, and I'll see you all again soon, and so long for now, folks.